Our next speaker is Chet Bowling. Here, I can move my stuff. Oh. Our next speaker is Chet Bowling, and Chet has asked me to just introduce him by saying that he runs a certified organic farm 5 miles south of the center of Oberlin and teaches classes through Ohio State University.
All right, so I'm here to talk about the lick. So there are a group of us that have been working on this idea for a while, and this is actually a name that I just came up with yesterday. I love this name, the lick. Lorraine Incubator Kitchen. You know, originally I was calling it the Lorain County Kitchen Incubator, and I realized those letters, you know, if you rearrange them, said lick, but if you put them in that L-I-C-K order, it would be Lorain Incubator County Kitchen, you know. That didn't work. So I just said, okay, what if we just named it the Lorain Incubator Kitchen, and for short it'd be called the lick. All right, so who knows what an incubator kitchen is? Yeah, some people do. All right, so I've got some handouts here. Just take one and pass it around to folks. I've also got a little map because I'm thinking of this activity on sort of a regional basis, not limited just to Oberlin, but to a larger geographic area. The map that's coming around is an example of what it would be like if we said what they say in Athens, the 30-mile meal. Yeah, no, sorry, that was the original. So the 30-mile meal, that's a 30-mile radius around Oberlin. So, wait till everybody gets a chance to get one of those handouts. So I'm just going to say a very few things, and then I'm going to throw it open to questions for the rest of our time. So what is a incubator kitchen? It's really simple. It's a commercially licensed facility that encourages people in the community to start new food-based enterprises, and this offers the space and the equipment for them to do it at a very low cost. It's normally rented to entrepreneurs on an hourly basis, so they don't have to go through the high cost of not only purchasing a facility, but going through all the licensing that has to happen. Because in a place where food is processed, it's really important and good, a very good thing, that it should be licensed and that the people who are processing food there know safe food handling practices. So, you know, that's all it is just this great space for people to come in and start a food-based enterprise or expand. You know, there are, for those who don't know, the Department of Agriculture has jurisdiction over what are called cottage food industries, and those are foods that can be produced at home. And if you go to the, even if you just Google cottage food industries, Ohio Department of Agriculture, you'll come on the rules that they have for that. There are some things that can be produced at home, some things that can't. Like you can make jam at home, you cannot make salsa at home and sell it. You can make jam at home and sell it to anybody, anywhere, anytime. You can bake bread at home as long as you're using your residential kitchen oven to do it with. But you can't make sauerkraut at home and sell it on the open market. You know, that's just, it's not legal. And thank goodness, because who knows what might happen. The one we're working on, the lick, we're imagining at this point that it would be a cooperative enterprise. That is to say, it would be in the style of Mondragon, if you know cooperatives, a worker-owned enterprise. That is to say that instead of the model that they used in Athens, which is a nonprofit, what we're suggesting is there's more value to actually having the kitchen incubator owned by the people who are actually using the kitchen incubator. They have a lot of vested interest then in its success because they're the owners of that enterprise. Let's see, how much does it cost to, normally people ask, well, geez, how much does it cost? Well, the costs usually run between $25 and $50 an hour is what it normally costs to rent the facilities, although if you're a big user, sometimes they have a flat fee for you if you're using it maybe, I don't know, 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week, something like that. You know, the goal of a kitchen incubator would be to be used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's in any facility like this, that would be the highest and best use, is to have it used every hour of the day, every day of the week. Because it's sitting there. That's the thing about any physical facility. Once you have a physical space, you know, the rental clock, or if you think of buying a place, the clock never stops ticking on what it costs for that facility. So the more you use it, the better off it is. And I know in Athens, people have, people come in at all times of night and day to use that facility. Same with the NOC, which is the Northwest Ohio Cooperative Kitchen, which is run by SIFT. I don't know either of those facilities. So what can be processed, or what can be made in an incubator kitchen? The truth is, anything that it's licensed for, and there are a series of licenses. So there's this notion of catering and food trucks, those kinds of facilities that would use an incubator kitchen. It can be licensed just at that level. It can be licensed at the canning level, which is sort of the next major level up, and then you can actually get to a meat processing level, which is the most complicated, I'll say, licensing that can happen. But any of those can happen. Any of those is just a matter of licensing. So how do you get involved? This is the last piece of my talk, and I'm going to throw it up to questions. In the handout that I gave you, on the back of that handout is a pre-application. So you can fill that out if you're interested and give it to me. And on the front of that piece, the prospectus, is my email address and my phone number. So you can feel free to call me. We've been meeting, I don't know, once every 2 weeks the group meets and we talk about it. We're working on finding a facility right now. I have some ideas about how we can get started between now and the time we get our facility, because one of the questions is, how do we raise capital? You know, you need startup capital for this enterprise. One of the things that we've been talking about doing is not only people coming in having their own individual business or enterprise. If somebody's a caterer or you know, they have a food truck, that sort of thing, that's fine. But we've also talked about the idea, because this is a co-op that is an employee-owned enterprise, that we would create our own brand of food. So this would be the Lick food, you know, Lick food you love. And this is just my idea, first time sort of running this out there, is that once a month we could carpool it over to the NOC, the SIFT, which is not that far from here. We could begin to create some of our own food products, which we would then begin to market, and the profit from that would be our startup capital. So, you know, it's just a way of us not only beginning to work together and getting started. We don't need any other facility. We can start right now if we want to. Once a month, run over there, you know, rent out their facility for a few hours, produce a bunch of salsa, bring it back to Northeast Ohio and start to sell it. You know, whether we sell it in bulk to the college, or whether we start getting it in the IGA, or sell it at the farmer's market, or sell it at multiple farmers markets, or get it in Heinen's, or, you know, all these Buellers, they're all looking for local food. So there's no lack of a market for the product that we would produce. So that's it in a nutshell. Let's hear what questions you have.
So, no, you continue.
And so with what you're doing, you're meeting already?
Yes, we've been meeting for a while.
And so when will your next meeting be?
The There's actually, I should have put that on here too, there's a Doodle poll, the way we schedule our meetings. Do you know Doodle? Doodle is a little software site you go to, and what I do is I post some options in terms of days and times during the day, and then you just put in your name and say, these are the best times for me to meet, and then we meet at the time that the most people can meet. So if you'll just email me with your email address and say you want to be part of the group, I'll put you on the list and I'll send you the doodle.
And how local are you all? Are you Oberlin?
Yes, right now, I think I live the furthest of anybody from Oberlin. I live, like I say, 5 miles south of here. My farm is 5 miles south of here. So, but the reason I brought that 30-mile map is because we want to begin to recruit people from around that 30-mile radius. If we're ever going to get to a viable incubator, there's two things we can't do. One is we can't just have people from Oberlin using it because there aren't enough people in Oberlin to use it. Number two is we can't think of Oberlin as our market. There aren't enough people in Oberlin to support an incubator kitchen in terms of the product that you would produce. Just population's not big enough. That's all there is to it. So thinking of the market in that 30-mile radius, when you think of that, I was really surprised. Man, that goes all the way to Lakewood.
Yeah.
Wow. There are a lot of people that live between here and Lakewood. Big market, big, gigantic market. So, and of course, it goes all the way the other way, all the way to Norwalk and Vermilion, and all of that is included in there as well. So, lots of people in that market. 30 miles really isn't that far when you think about it.
So looking at your chart over here and just hearing that, so you're looking at possibly drawing from produce and producers from the north or from the southwest, processed through Oberlin, and then the value-added products are going to the northeast.
Yeah, I am really thinking of this in sort of that 30-mile thing, both in terms of where we're getting the produce that we're using to process from, and then back to that market. So this is, like me, it's farmers who want to do value-added because that's a great way to improve your profitability.
How many people do you need to get started? Do you currently have enough interested folks, or are you looking for a magic number that would make it happen?
That's a great question, Ruby. I actually did some numbers on this. My hands up real quick. A lot depends upon the facility and what the cost of the facility is. Rent is one of your big factors in this. Right now, all we have, I'm actually the only one who is committed to some processing time. And what I've committed to is 6 hours a week for 6 weeks. Mine will be seasonal. I can grow basil, and I'm going to start to grow garbanzo beans. So I will be making pesto and I'll be making hummus. Those are the two products that I'll be making starting out. So no one else has put their sort of name on the line and said, I want to do this. But I don't know if you know this or not, but there was a 280-page study done here in Oberlin on an incubator kitchen a few years back, I think.
About 7 years ago.
Yeah. So I used that, plus I went off and found 2 other feasibility studies that were done in other parts of the country on incubator kitchens to sort of create my budget here. I also went off and did some research on what industrial rents would be here, and there's actually a facility here that would rent for $3.95 a square foot. The minimum number of square feet that you could that they're willing to break off for you in this facility is 12,000 square feet, which is just enormous. I mean, it's like you don't need anywhere near that kind of space, but that's what's available right now. We are going to be meeting with Ted Barr, who is owner of the Missler's property, The problem with the Missow's property, of course, is that he wants $12 a square foot for it, you know, which is 3 times this other facility, this other facility is just, it's actually not very far from here, a few blocks from here. So we're meeting with the city planner, Gary Boyle, right? That's his name, Gary Boyle. I haven't met him yet, so I'm meeting with him this week, and I've also contacted the Lorain County Community Development folks, and they're making a list of potential facilities for us. And our team of people, you know, people have been meeting, we all have our eyes open and trying to understand what, you know, let's get the entire list of facilities. Let's create a matrix here, see what the pluses and minuses, costs and so forth each are, and then we can make a logical decision on that. So if, you know, the number of maximum hours in a month theoretically are 730, and if we charge $25 an hour, that would be $18,250 if it was used 24/7. The total expenses at that usage, I think, is somewhere around $8,350. You know, these are directionally right. I don't know. They might be as far as 25% off. So the net income at that point would be about $9,900 a month, which would be fantastic enterprise. Right now, with the 24 hours that I've scheduled, 6 hours a week, that's about $600 worth of revenue, and the expenses at that level are about $4,600, which means we'd lose about $4,000, at least in the month that I used it. We'd lose even more than that in the months because we don't have anybody else there. So the, you know, the sort of break-even point is about 350 hours, right in that range. So that's 350 hours a month. That's about what? 4 times 9 is 36, so roughly 90 hours a week in that range. And that's making the assumption that you're charging $25 an hour, which you know, you might bump it up to $35 an hour, and which is not unreasonable and not out of the marketplace in terms of what other incubator kitchens are charging. And that number would then go down. So you can see we need lots more people people who will put their names on the dotted line before we can actually get to where we want to go.
Did you do your own feasibility analysis to see if $25 an hour is a reasonable cost to you for what you can get out of it in terms of your payback, your sales?
Yeah, it's really a back of the envelope. I haven't done as detailed a study as I want to do, but just knowing about what it costs me to grow the basil, you know, I'm going to have to add to that olive oil. I'm going to have to add pine nuts, salt. You know, those are the other ingredients in pesto, and so and garlic. I grow my own garlic, so I will have 2 of the ingredients there, the garlic and the pesto, and just know what. Kind of understand what the costs of those are. Basil would be the most expensive component. That's, you know, that always is the expensive component in pesto. So just sort of in a back of an envelope thing, $25 an hour is perfectly reasonable. I've also thought about the notion of catering. At least one of the people interested in this is a chef now who's thinking about catering. And $25 an hour for him is fine. He's like, I can handle that easy. So, you know, that's the sort of analysis that I've done.
Just out of curiosity, it's so new to me hearing what you're talking about. The ownership group of the facility, or the proprietors of the facility, secure licensing and certifications, and then I got to watch my wording after this. Seemingly anyone can come in and work under those, prepare their product under that licensing and certification that the renter does not have.
Yeah, no, that's a really great question because the facility is licensed. But to use the kitchen, you have to have a food handler certificate. You have to have one.
Okay.
And you have to have insurance, liability insurance.
The renter.
The renter, right, exactly. So the way this works is you come in, you make application, you have to show us a business plan, which is completely confidential. You know, we don't share that with anybody outside the organization. You show us a business plan so we know you're a viable enterprise or that you're headed in the right direction if you're a new enterprise. And then you show us your insurance policy and you show us your food handler certificate. And then you go through some training about how to use the equipment in the kitchen. And then the first few times that you come, somebody, one of the proprietors, as you put it, watches to make sure that everything goes well, not to spy on you, but you know, to make sure that you know how to use the equipment and everything's working well, and that you follow the rules in terms of cleanliness. At the end of your time, it has to be as clean or cleaner than it was when you started. I mean, that's so important.
If I could just ask you two more real quick. Just out of curiosity, it sounds like you're very much in infancy stage.
Yes.
With that being said, what do you think the possibilities of reality are to have this facility function on a 24/7 basis? Is that a viable?
Not the Northwest Ohio Cooperative Kitchen does that. I mean, they're not filled 100% of the time during the year, but during their busiest season, they're filled up 24/7.
And then you use that as a model. That's a template you see, which geographically is pretty close.
Yeah.
And you can see that function and know that success is just an arm's reach away, and that can be achieved, or at least started here.
I think we actually have a better opportunity here because we're closer to a bigger population. So there will be more entrepreneurs who are interested, and there's a much bigger market. You know, 40% of the people that live in the state of Ohio, we have 11 million people who live in the state. 40% of those people live in the northeast corner. And if you think about that, if you think of places like Ashtabula and, you know, counties along that sort of border, it's even closer.
Even on a seasonal basis, I was raised on a dairy farm outside of Sandusky, Ohio, and our lives changed when Cedar Point opens. We can't drive 250 because of the influx of just it's the golden artery of Erie County.
Right.
And if you were to tap into that seasonal market, or people that utilize the incubator kitchen in Oberlin, I think that would be a huge golden use.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the people who produce products in the AceNet incubator kitchen sell their products all over the United States, all over the world. With the advent of the internet, people can ship their stuff anywhere. So there are lots of people buying Frog Ranch salsa all over the world. Yeah, Peter.
Not knowing what capital resources that we can create to start with, is there a way to stage this as well in stages so that based on our capital resources we can gradually evolve into a kitchen incubator versus something like a community kitchen and begin to move towards a more commercial approach? Is that a feasible idea?
Yeah, yes and no. The yes part of it is you definitely want to stage this. You don't want to start out putting in a canning facility. That's you know, that's sort of the second stage. You want to get that sort of caterer's level of licensing, and you want to start out there. At that caterer's level of licensing, people can come in and they can make bread, you know, they can make all kinds of baked goods, they can do all kinds of prep work for catering jobs that they're doing, and we can service food trucks, which are, you know, just an expanding market. So that's where you can start, and the sort of processing that I'm talking about for my products as well. All that can be done at that level. The next stage, once we've, you know, sort of gotten ourselves enough capital, we can move to the next level, just as you would in any enterprise. Okay, what's our sort of next level of development or expansion? That would be to the large canning facility. And actually, Brad's film, I think, has some great shots of the ACE-NET canning facility there. So I think that's right. You don't want to start out with a community kitchen. You don't want to think of it that way, because a community kitchen, in a community kitchen, you don't need any licensing, you don't need any approval from anybody. A community kitchen is simply a space where people from the community come together to collectively do something, make something that they all will take home to their own homes and use in their own homes. None of the product that's produced in a community kitchen is for sale. That's the difference. It's just for their own individual use. And if after they processed it, you know, they processed 2 or 3 different products, if they want to trade between themselves, you know, no mas, that's fine. They can do that. That's perfectly fine. But they cannot sell it. So there's no, that's just not the notion of an incubator. So, yeah.
Have you had any conversations with Eric Petrus at Rowan County Community College and the culinary arts students and a possible connection with those graduates? And I could see that might be a good
Bingo.
pipeline.
That's one of the things we thought about, is just the natural connection. So, and the notion of Glide would fit right into this process. So kids who went through the culinary program would be part of the Incubator kitchen. They'd get some resources from Glide and start up their own enterprises. Not only that, but the JBS as well. So both of those are close to us here. It makes a lot of sense in terms of the sort of location of this facility. Yeah, that's perfect. So I also have some handouts about a young man from Toledo. He was 13 when he started his own cookie baking business. It's called Not Just Cookies. He sort of got tired of shoveling snow and, you know, walking dogs and that sort of thing, and he liked baking, so he started this up. And he then went to the Knock kitchen, and now his products are being sold all over Northwest Ohio, grocery stores and so forth. Cookies that he bakes in the Knock kitchen. So it's a chance, this is just a chance for young people to begin to enter into those kind of enterprises.
What do you see as being the biggest challenges or hurdles now as you see advance on this effort?
Yeah, I think, well, finding a good location for us. I mean, finding a good location will be essential to us because obviously $3.95 a square foot is not a bad rent, but if it were $2.95 or $2 a square foot, you know, the thing about this incubator kitchen is it doesn't have to be any place special. Now, it doesn't have to be on Main Street. In fact, there's no reason for it. Nobody asks the proprietor of, you know, this salsa, was this made on a building on Main Street, or, you know, when is this made? You know, it's like, no. So you want to find sort of the lowest rent place that you can possibly find, because it's, you know, it's called your daily nut in the business world. Every time you put your key in the door and turn it, you know, click, click, the meter goes over and you've got another day's bill to pay because the utilities are there, the rent is running, all those clocks are running whether you're using the facility or not. So you try and keep that daily nut as low as you can possibly keep it. Yes?
Could people not, couldn't people that are interested pay some kind of like a little membership or something at first so that you know those things, and then those monies can go for things that you have to print and run off and things of that nature?
Yes, actually that's our plan. We've been talking about this, and the $100 number has sort of come up. If people are serious, they'll put $100 up and put their name on the line saying, you know, at least right now I'm committed to this number of hours of use. Until we get to that level, then, yeah. So thanks. That's a good point to bring up.
Chet, what is allowance for private deliveries actually entail?
Yeah, what that really means is, you know, if I'm a caterer and I have, you know, all of these places, the good ones, all have storage space. So you don't have to slep in everything that you want to use. And so there would be somebody there who sort of during business hours, who could take a delivery. If you know, ordered a truckload of canned tomatoes, you know, it would arrive and you could offload that without you personally having to be there to accept that, whatever it was.
So it would almost take some kind of a manager, on-site super.
Absolutely, yeah, especially once you sort of reach this, you know, if you're running 90 hours a week, you have to have somebody there who will, you know, take in new entrepreneurs, new renters, so to speak, and teach them and, you know, take deliveries and make sure everything's operating correctly. If something breaks down in the middle of somebody doing some processing, you want somebody right there who can get help to fix whatever it is that broke down.
And what's the minimum storage space and minimum square footage you think is feasible that you could start with?
Yeah, I think if we had a couple of thousand square foot, we could start with that. 12,000 square foot is way more space than we need, but man, it would be like, well, we'd never have to worry about finding another space to expand into. We've got 12,000 square feet. Maybe we could even sublet that, some of that 12,000 square feet while we're waiting to some other enterprise, and then, you know, we recoup some of that rent. I mean, maybe somebody else is looking for warehouse or storage space, and we could say, well, we got some space there. As long as it's compatible with us.